I can talk man to man too. Okay, Geoff, if you go over there and just take a seat. And the other guy who I've only met in the last 5 minutes for the first time for about donkey's years, I don't know how long it is, he's an ex-racer, he's an actor, Gary Walker. Gary, you're very welcome. Take a seat, grab a microphone, there's a wee switch in the bottom there, and I'm going to sit down beside you.
1, 2.
So, these two guys, and I only heard about this yesterday, was the day, but yeah, yesterday I think I was talking to Geoff very briefly about it. They're going round the world on, I would assume it's 2 motorbikes. Now, the word Centenary is in the title here, the CS Clancy Centenary ride. I don't, who knows the most about this? Possibly Geoff, does he?
Yes,
we'll go to Geoff first. Anyway.
He's older, so he doesn't.
He's bigger anyway, I don't know if he's older or not.
Longer.
Okay, Gary, just before we go on to the main subject, how long is it since you've retired from racing, Gary? It's that long ago, I can't even remember.
Yeah. Roman numerals. 2001 was last time I was out on a racing bike.
You were on strokers, weren't you?
Yeah, mostly. Last year was on an R1 and a race with Marshall in the Aprilia Challenge in 2001.
Right, I thought it was maybe just in the late 90s, but...
Well, I kind of came back. I had retired in the late 90s on strokers, and then I came back in 2001, the year of the foot and mouth disease.
And you had an equity card as well? Is that what you have for acting?
Yeah, I still do, yeah.
Still do?
Still have it, yeah.
Still doing a bit of acting?
Just in front of my children now.
Anyway, to get on to the main subject, this CS Clancy Centenary ride. First of all, Geoff, who was CS Clancy?
See, the whole trip's gone wrong already and we haven't even started. Clancy was an American advertising writer and film writer who in 1912 and 1913 was the first person to take a bike around the world, George, and I'd never heard of him, to be honest, along with a lot of other people until about 2 years ago. A guy called Fergal O'Neill, a Dublin biker, emailed me and said that they were planning, because although Clancy was American, his dad was Irish, so he started the trip in Dublin. And Fergal's plan was to recreate the Irish leg of the journey up through Donegal and Belfast. So that got me curious, and I googled Clancy, found out that there was a book about the adventure, and the more I read the book, 40-watt bulb went off above my head, and I thought, you know what, it would be brilliant to recreate this on the centenary of it. So Clancy started in Dublin. He went up through Belfast, down through Europe, across Algeria and Tunisia, and then hopped over to Sri Lanka in the Far East, around the Far East, Japan, across to San Francisco, home to New York. So we'll be recreating that journey over April, May and June this year.
But let's get things straight. 1912, this is the 1913.
He started in Dublin on October the 23rd, 1912, and finished in New York on August 1913. So he took quite a bit of time over it. The bike he rode was a Henderson 4, probably the biggest and most powerful bike of its time at 937cc, 6 horsepower, no front brake and 1 gear, if you can imagine riding around the world in that back then. Yeah,
it wasn't a shaft drive BMW it was on. I don't know, can you try and describe the type of bike? But it's probably one of those bikes, belt drive with a massive size of a gear on the back, at the back wheel. I only had 1 gear.
Actually,
next to solid tyres, no suspension. How in the name of goodness would you ride around the world in one of those even today?
Well, actually, I'll hand over to Gary for that one, because at the launch in Dublin on October the 23rd, the anniversary when we recreated the Irish leg of the journey over 2 days, we had the only Henderson left in Ireland, owned by a guy from Cork who brought it up, and incredibly, he bought it as a basket case and restored it over 4 years, and it was immaculate, and he offered us the chance to ride it around the block. So naturally, not being a proper biker, I handed over to Gary. So I'll let you tell him a bit about the bike.
This Henderson even goes way past beyond your day of racing and riding motorbikes, doesn't it?
Only just, because it was all 4-stroke. A very interesting bike to ride. The clutch on the foot, you select the gear and you just let it out.
It probably took you half an hour to start the damn thing up in the morning.
I would like to. If a sore leg.
Yeah. You know, so many levers and things, decompression levers, and oh goodness knows what else to set the thing up before you get even give it a kick.
Well, this is it. I mean, to ride bikes in those days, you nearly needed to be an engineer to understand what the things were doing, and you know, trying to put a foot brake on because there's only a back brake, and put a clutch in, and then what do you want to put on the floor to stop falling over? So it was timing was important.
Well, as history nearly repeating itself, you nearly have to be an engineer these days to work at a motorbike.
Yeah,
okay, they're easier to ride.
Just a computer, plug it in. Or as long as you have the dealer's phone number now, you're okay.
Yeah, there wasn't too many Henderson dealers, so this.
No, definitely not.
But you know, I'm sure you try to imagine, Gary, just what it was like to try and ride around the world on a bike of that nature. It's almost inconceivable.
Well, there's so many depths to what this guy had done. He'd started off with a friend, first of all, and he left him by the time we got to Paris. But there was no medical attention, there was no fuel, there was no ATM card. It was just to go anywhere in those days. There was no AA, no one to pick you up, no mobile phones. So there was, it'd been a very, very tricky thing to do.
So to fast forward 100 years, you guys are going to start off from where and when?
We're starting from Belfast. We already marked the launch on the 23rd of October.
You looked at Geoff there as if I'm not sure where we're starting from.
Well, you caught that, did you?
I did.
No, it's from Belfast to the 24th of March, and we'll be heading over to Glasgow, and then it's each day there's different stop-offs.
Right down Dover direction, probably.
Yeah,
onto Europe.
I can't remember the port that we're heading over to Holland.
It's Harwich to the Hook of Holland, then down through Holland, Belgium, France, Spain, ferry down to Algeria, across Algeria and Tunisia, and then back up to Italy and follow the Clancy route. And rather wonderfully, I managed to track down the original boots that Clancy wore 100 years ago, which Gary actually wore at the launch, along with a three-piece tweed suit and the flat cap that Clancy would have worn on the Henderson as he rode around the block, and the pictures of those are just brilliant, you know, and as Gary said, makes you think, what an incredible thing to do 100 years ago. And then when we get to San Francisco, we'll be meeting up with an American author called Dr. Gregory Fraser. Now Clancy, he wrote about the trip at the time in an American magazine, the Cycling and Motorcycling Review. And he planned to turn it into a book, but he never got around to it for some reason. And it was only in 2010 that Dr. Fraser put all Clancy's articles and original photographs into a book. And Clancy's quite specific about the route he took and the places he stayed and the things he saw. And we've also got, as well as the books, about 130 of his original photographs from the trip. So it's going to be quite easy to follow exactly his route, stay in the same hotels as he stayed in 100 years ago if they're still there, see if they've got any worse. I know from the side of it, I don't think they could have.
Yeah, you might be sleeping on a bit of waste ground or something.
We may well be, it wouldn't be the first time.
Gary, do you realise something here? He may be a good journalist, he may know a bit of geography. Did you realise he's only ridden a motorbike for the last couple of years? Not right, Geoff?
Well, no, I'd only, my dad and my uncle used to race Nortons and Ridges in the 50s, but then...
that doesn't give you much experience to ride around the world.
Well, I was a bit of a late developer, George. I only got my test in '96, and then somehow 2 years later found myself with 30 miles on a bike in my life, including 20 to the test centre in Lisburn and back, sitting in Royal Enfield in Delhi. If you remember, just about to ride the 7,000 miles home and looking at it, Delhi traffic and roads at 120 people, 5 people died on every day, and thinking, what the hell am I doing here? So yeah, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, and since then I've done Chile to Alaska and a Triumph, around Australia in a Triumph, and which is funny enough how Gary got involved, because it was in the King's Hall at the bike show. I was doing a book signing of the Australian book, and Gary, who was a mate of Colin O'Carroll, who I did that trip with, came up and said, listen, if you're thinking of anything else ever, keep me in mind. So that was how that was how he bought himself into it.
It was me and my big mouth.
You volunteered for this? You haven't any second thoughts about it?
Oh, more than seconds and waiting to fifth thoughts.
And you're on BMW H, you're not riding pillion or anything like that?
No, we're friends, but
no,
we're not that close.
It's not my type.
Yeah, it was going to be Triumphs. I mean, Triumph have supported me incredibly well over the years, but the main sponsor was an insurance company whose name will come to me in a moment.
Hey, starts to pay. You get it near the front of the phone book.
Absolutely, it begins with A, absolutely. They're the start of the book. So no, I went along to see Sam Geddes, and Sam was exactly the same as when I approached him about the Australia trip. He said, Geoff, you know, it's a great idea, but there's a recession on and blah, blah, blah. I just said to listen, and 5 minutes later Sam was saying, you know what, this is brilliant, we have to go for this. So he came up with most of the sponsorship. There was a bit of a hole in the budget. Triumph couldn't cover that, and BMW stepped into the breach, so we'll be on R1200GS Adventures, the air-cooled ones, because the adventure version of the new liquid-cooled one won't come out for another year.
I assume the main thrust of this whole expedition is when you get back home again, you'll write a book. I don't know, do you do any writing, Gary? No?
No, I'll colour a few in, no.
Right. Turn the dots?
Yeah. That's advanced.
Right.
Well, during there will be a book. It's out on October the 23rd this year, which is the 101st anniversary of Clancy setting off from Dublin. During the trip, people will be blogging every 2 or 3 days to AdelaideAdventures.com, which is a dedicated website for the trip. I'll be doing the words, and Gary is doing the pics and a bit of video for that. It'll also be online on driving.co.uk, which is the Times Online motoring site. As you may know, I do the weekly motorbike column for them, which is a weekly attempt to hide the fact that I still know bugger all about motorbikes, but I know my secret is safe with you. And also during the trip, it'll be a 2-page spread in the Irish edition of the Mirror every Saturday between March the 24th and June the 24th. It'll be on By Fire's Guide, and there'll be wrap-up pieces in MCN, the Daily Telegraph, pretty closer to when the book comes out in October.
So Gary, mainly you're just the cameraman for this expedition, are you?
Yeah, I'm the eye candy.
Right.
And chief mechanic.
That's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, you probably will need somebody to do mechanic, because around the world, even on the super efficient BMWs, things can happen.
Yeah, well, we'll all be on speed dial.
Look, probably are most of the roads tarmac nowadays, where they probably wouldn't have been 100 years ago with CS Clancy?
They are pretty much now. I mean, a lot of the roads that Clancy travelled on were just dirt tracks, to be honest. And funny enough, the worst roads he discovered, because he took a sort of northern route up through Oregon and across the states that way, and the worst roads of the whole trip were in Oregon, but he had some terrible ones in Algeria, where he nearly came off a cliff one night because obviously the light on the bike was very poor and he was riding in snow. No, in that sense it'll be a lot. I mean, it'll be a lot easier compared to what he did, but it's still really. I mean, I know Gary said when we only finally got the funding in place for this yesterday morning, and up to then I wasn't quite sure if it was actually going to happen even at this stage. So, as my wife said, I bet you're now feeling half relieved and half terrified, and Gary's exactly the same. You sort of you think, why do we set off on these mad things, because they're difficult and dangerous, and also being away from home for 3 months and organising all that and it's a lot to ask on a relationship as well, and I've done it several times now, so I'm surprised I'm still married, to be honest. But I think once you're actually on the road, there's something incredible about getting up every morning, putting your stuff on a bike and just heading off down the road and not having a clue what the day will bring. It's so different to ordinary life, and it becomes incredibly addictive.
Yeah, you're an old hand at this game now, Geoff. You've been so many times on these long distance expeditions. Is it your first time, Gary, to try anything like this? Probably the most you ever rode a motorbike was what, about 30 miles and a bit under 150 or something like that?
Yeah, I managed to get the 30 miles done under 150. No, I've been, certainly not, I haven't around the world, but for many years now I've travelled around Europe on the bikes with some friends. It take 10 days. We've been absolutely everywhere. But
probably going to races or something. No?
Funny enough, no, staying away from them. Yeah. When Jeremy was doing Grand Prix, he had invited us to the Le Mans, and we almost made it there. But the whole idea of thousands of bikers going one way, it's great to see. I'd like to see one day. MotoGP, but I like to go the other way. That's a lot less please people watching what they're doing.
Yeah.